Hey, thanks for being a part of the conversation. Let's do some pod crashing. Episode number 304 is with Aaron Mahnke from the podcast Consumed.
Good morning, sir. I'm well. How are you?
Fantastic. Dude, I got to tell you something. One of the things that really caught my attention when I first started listening to the podcast was right there in the beginning, and I want to know how many listeners actually pick up on this. You say to listen with your headphones, and I'm going, why would he say that? And then when you get into it, oh my God, you really do play with the left-right sides.
Oh, yeah, absolutely. I mean, there's a little 3D audio logo on the artwork, and it's really not for show. I mean, we really build this stuff. Some people use these little microphones that look like ears to actually, like, you can talk to one side and the sound, shifts over to one side of the spectrum. You talk to the other side, it moves to the other side. It's very, very neat what 3D audio can do these days. It
captivates your imagination is what it does, because it makes it feel like that you're right there without slipping into a pair of VR glasses.
Yeah, there's nothing better than listening to a spooky podcast and hearing like the crunch of leaves behind you.
Yeah, exactly. And especially when the way that the characters are moving around in it, when they come into the room, you can hear the footsteps in the background. So you can go, okay, this scene is starting to build here.
Yeah, absolutely. I think it's one of the advantages that the audio space has over video, in the sense that you're out in the forest in Vancouver filming an episode of The X-Files and you get the crunch of leaves and stuff. And I'm not an audio expert, but it's happening in the natural world. But in podcast space, we want to create somebody walking in the woods. We create that with sounds in a library, but we can build them into left to right channels. We can have them move from the left to the right. It's really amazing. Yeah.
I had a program director tell me one time, because I was imaging at 107.9 here in Charlotte, and he comes in, he goes, "What are you doing? Why are you playing with the left and right channels like that? Listeners don't care." And that changed me forever. But yet when I heard your podcast, I went, I do care, and I am a listener.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, look, if you're a rock fan, if you're a music fan in general, you've been hearing bands do this for a long time, where, the Foo Fighters song kicks on and it starts on your left ear and it kind of shifts over to the right, and then it's all over your head. And it's effective. But I think when you get into audio fiction, that's when it really starts to flex. Like, you really feel the power of playing with the three-dimensional space, the spatial audio, as people talk about now.
Let's talk about the creative process of this. This is a story that you created, but the actual podcast was brought together by a different person. How did you relinquish, that kind of control to somebody else to put the podcast together?
Well, it helps to be incredibly busy to be able to hand that off to somebody else. No, but it's a book that I wrote and self-published like a decade ago, and my fans love it. It's a great story, but we didn't want to come out and make a podcast that was essentially an audio version, a scripted sound effects version of the book. And so I turned to my buddy Carlos. I've known him for years. He's an amazing writer. We worked on, the Dan Brown TV show a couple years ago, The Lost Symbol, The Exorcist, and on my TV show Lore. And I said, hey, here's a story. It's a seed. You've got a general plot, point A to point B, but can you bring it to life in a new way? Can you add in new characters? And he just took it, did his magic, and produced the scripts for it, and they're stunning. I laughed. I held my breath because I didn't know sometimes where things were going. It was great. Yeah.
And it's so relatable. And I don't know if it's because I'm a podcaster as well, but when Sarah's in that car and she's talking to her sister and she's going, "Hey, catch up with the times. It's a team of one." I burst out laughing at that, because not everybody's got a team, dude.
Oh yeah. Yeah. It's funny. I tend to like to cast these supernatural shows with people who really have deep roots in other shows of that same genre. So in this one, Ruth Connell, who plays Sheriff Max Allen, she's a veteran of the Supernatural TV show, capital S. But Rachel Rosenblum has this really great comedy root, and I just love how it works and how she plays off Arturo Castro in this show. Like, there's some perfect comedy timing in this.
She's mean. When she was doing that interrogation, she's mean, dude.
Well, she's kind, but also bitter and sarcastic. And, that's how we are out here.
See, and the way I look at it, when I heard her character first coming into the storyline, I'm going, okay, here comes the conflict, because you've got to have conflict when you're sharing a story.
Oh, yeah. She brings in a world of, like, I guess in some sense, unnecessary conflict. She's got a weird relationship with her sister. She's got this weird relationship with work and life. And all of those things kind of feed into who she is as she enters into town. So yeah, we get quite a bit of conflict.
Oh yeah, and when Sarah first comes to town, first of all, for that guy to to work on her car, the guy that's driving the truck, I mean, he lets her stay at the house, and I'm going, what? Would I do that? But then again, that's a small town vibe, isn't it? And that was your way of bringing that small town forward.
Absolutely. Yeah. The Bruder family, they also provide, Jack's very nice and helpful, and Sam Rod, who voices the character, has the most amazing gravelly voice for that character. But, the whole family sort of gives us a little microcosm of what's going on in the town itself. This conflict, this back and forth of, it's great.
Oh, yeah. And it makes you kind of, when you start hearing the whispers, you're going, ooh, are there monsters around me if I hear these whispers in my head?
Right. Yeah, in the script for months, it just said "the sound," all capital letters, so we had to bring that idea to life, and it's gonna morph and evolve as the season goes on too.
What is the language? Is it Spanish that the right there at the beginning of the story where the guy that worked at the restaurant, is he speaking Spanish? Because I really wanted to get into what he was saying. And his mother. Yeah. There's a bit of Spanish in this, and there's a reason for it. I'm not a big spoiler guy, but there's some reasons for it. And, we'll see elements of that. And Carlos also has some visions for a second season that moves us in a different direction that could be fantastic. So it's a springboard for things to come. I'll tell you, before I even got to the end credits on the first episode, I was sitting there going, my God, this music is unbelievable. And then to hear that it's available on Apple, I mean, you guys are making this available.
Oh yeah, absolutely. The music for it is on Spotify. It's on Apple. And the great thing about this is that Carlos Folia, who wrote this show, along with his assistant Alessandra Hara del Castillo, Carlos wrote the music, and he had this big grand vision for it. It's sort of like tracks that build upon each other, and so the first few tracks are a little bit more simple and stripped down, and they change as they go. But yeah, he put that together himself, and he's got it up on Spotify and Apple, and people can go listen to it when they're not listening to the show.
Yeah, because it totally sets it up as what it is, especially when you're the first opening scene, and then you go into that music. I just picture this, that I'm sitting at a movie theater, or I'm getting ready to go into a great binge watch, and here comes that music that says, all right, buddy, buckle down. You're going to get into the story.
Yeah, I think for a long time, people have sort of looked at audio fiction in the podcast space as, and it is, the descendant of the radio plays that maybe our grandparents or great grandparents listened to, like The Shadow, the radio dramas. They're very stripped down. They're very simple. And I really think that this is our chance in the modern world of modern technology, like spatial audio, that kind of stuff, to really give people a TV show for the ears experience, where you really do feel like when you sit down and hit play that you're getting more than just some characters in a room reading a piece of paper. You're getting a full played out experience. And that's what we deliver here.
One of the things that you're doing, you're releasing this one little episode at a time, and what I've got are the first 3 so far. So even with Sarah and the continuation with her sister, where she finally gets enough airspace there, or a signal to where she can talk with her sister, and still Sarah is all about how's mom, and then the sister doesn't. It's like it was very like it didn't. Nothing really serious happened. It's like, oh, come on, what's going on here?
Oh yeah. I mean, there's a little misdirection that you have to play with things like this.
Yeah.
And, you have to get Sarah upset in the first scene of the first episode so that she's surprised by the deer, if it was a deer crossing the road, and things like that. It's fun.
Well, I thought she was going to crash the first time. I really did. And then and her emotions. I mean, boy, you've got yourself a great voice actor there, dude.
Absolutely. Yeah. I really do think that a lot of these productions hinge on being able to connect with the main characters and follow them on their journey. And she does a fantastic job. And I think we're early days in this. There's 12 episodes. Rachel obviously comes in early as her character, Sarah, here, but we meet Arturo Castro as Gordon Morales. And then tomorrow's episode, Wednesday, the 14th, is Valentine's Day. So we're going to get we're going to move in that direction, but they begin to play off each other like a perfect comedy duo. It's just, there's that mix of suspense and fear.
Oh my God. I felt that when she was at the bus depot, because she was just on that dang phone and the guy in the background is saying, last call to get on the bus. I mean, I had this fear inside of me that what happens if she misses this bus? They wanted her out of that town right now.
Yeah. But you know what? We know from the start, she's chasing a story. She needs a story. She needs a story for her career. but she's also a curious person. She just can't let go of something. And I think there's a lot of listeners who are probably like that, where they latch onto something and they can't let go. And I think standing in that bus station is a moment where we realize that she's a little tenacious and she's not going to let things slide.
She's the main blame, basically. She's in town. A crime has happened. This town has not had a crime like this in such a long time. She's new. It's got to be her. So she's pulled in.
I mean, you really can't blame the sheriff. It does seem very suspicious that it's happening right as she rolls into town. But I think that we're going to see that play out.
Yeah. What was the reason behind West Danville? What brought you to that particular town?
I'm going to blame that on Carlos as he wrote this.
Really?
I think he went looking for a small town, something, New Hampshire, Maine borders, somewhere in that area. Like, let's just get us out into the woods. It plays well with the whole, lost cell signal, lots and lots of wooded land to hide things in. And it's old, it's old. So yeah, there wasn't really like a beacon that drew us there. I think it worked.
Yeah. I'm so excited to find out what's going to be happening with Sheriff Allen, because I mean, one of the things that I'm drawn to a character like that because of the strength, and there's also, I believe that sheriffs have visions. They know more than what they're going to share because they got to hold back.
Oh yeah, absolutely. I mean, and that's, I think for her, I think it's professional and personal too.
Yeah.
There are reasons why, somebody who is not from the U.S. is working as a sheriff in the U.S. and she also, she's got her personal quirks that are coming into this as well. So we're going to see her character evolve a lot. As
a listener, is it wrong for me to think that right away? I mean, even in the opening scenes of the story, I'm going, oh, someone's jealous here. Ooh, you're going to stay in my house. There's a little bit of jealousy, and then I even felt jealousy with the sheriff.
Yeah, I mean, you've got somebody else poking around trying to find answers in a very small town with one sheriff, and it does kind of feel like somebody's stepping on another person's territory.
Yeah. I love the way that she described, that she records everything. And then, and of course Sarah does too. And the way that when the sheriff steps out of the room and she's trying to hurry up and get this marked down, because really it's all about getting what is going on right now. And Sarah played that very well because we've all been there. It's like, hurry up, turn on the microphone, get this on. Da, 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 da. And then you hurry up and, turn the damn thing off.
Yeah, well, I think one of my favorite scenes in the first episode is when Rachel playing Sarah, has settled into her room, at the Bruder house that night, and kind of, clicks on her recorder, and I guess not click because it's just a digital app on the phone, but still, she hits play and she starts sort of like getting her notes and her the B material for whatever show she creates from this, gets it on tape, and we get to hear what she's seen and realizing. We hear the wind and all that stuff. And I think it adds a new layer to the show. It's great.
So funny that you say that it was an app, because I was envisioning an old tape recorder, that you would pick up at Kmart with a cassette. And that's what I was envisioning, because for some reason, and I think that's what I love about this story, you're not really telling me when this is taking place. And that really allows me to develop my own idea of what year it is or what decade it is.
Yeah, for sure. I mean, look, you and I are probably of a little bit older generation than only having the audio app on the phone, right? So hitting play, I mean, you and I can probably picture those cassette recorders, long, like Kleenex box, but shorter. But yeah, I think that there's a benefit to not nailing this down to a specific month and year. From a production standpoint, it allows you to write the story, and then it might take you months to get the scripts done, months to do casting. You've got to record the stuff, you've got to produce the stuff. This is probably about an 18-month project here. So if we were to pick a year at the beginning, that year is sort of obsolete at the end. But it also just lets people sort of root it in today without having to think much about it, which is great. Is
everybody in the studio at the same time, or are they sending the tracks to you guys? What's happening here? Because I mean, I love the quality, but is everybody there?
So, we started out rough with the audio fiction world, me and iHeart. With Bridgewater, it was during COVID, so we were basically recording everybody in their own closets, and then syncing up the tape. I mean, we were using website-driven global clocks to get people to clap on a certain second, and then we can sync up our tapes and all that stuff. But once COVID opened up and people were able to get back in together and into studios together, we've really leaned into, as often as possible, let's get as many people as possible in the room. If there's 4 people in a scene, let's try to get those 4 people in the same studio space. There's just something magical that happens when these actors can bounce off each other visually in the room. and it comes out on tape. So I would say that across the board they're all together, but they're frequently in this show. They're frequently in the same space.
Wow.
Some of them are a little different. Genevieve is in Texas, but the beauty of LA is that there's a lot of performers who are there. And iHeart has a lot of studios all over the place to let us gather and get these things recorded. So it's been great.
The name of the podcast is Consumed. I pick it up on iHeartRadio, but I'm sure it's everywhere, sir. Is that right?
It is. Yeah, it is.
Wow. Are you going to turn any of your other books into a podcast? Because, I mean, dude, I remember talking to you with Lore, and it's like, oh, my God, this guy has grown so much with this platform.
Yeah, I mean, Lore started out as an accident. It was going to be a marketing tool for my fiction. And I do kind of feel like things have gone full circle where now, because of the popularity of Lore, and also just the stories I picked up and the things that I've learned, that's really allowed me to kind of turn back around, grab that fiction and play with it. Consumed is the first time that we're sort of taking a story I've written before and retooling it and reworking it from the ground up. And Carlos, again, did such a fantastic job with that. Whether or not there's another book on the horizon for some sort of work like that, I don't know. There's another show we have in production that will be, again, in the Bridgewater universe, along with Consumed. That will be a standalone show, maybe late this year or early next year. But that one's not based on anything that I've written before. It's me and a writer like really hashing out a cool new idea, and folks will love that one too. I really do feel like it.
I can't wait to talk to you about that one. Please come back to this show anytime in the future.
I certainly will. Thanks, Arrow.
Well, you be brilliant today, okay?
I will. You as well.